304 coming live from the UK this weekend. Now, it's supposedly going to be 5 a.m. by the time that pay-per-view starts there, but we're lucky over here across the pond in Canada that we're going to get it at the normal time frame, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Myself and Chris will be sitting down watching the event. It is UFC 304. Now, Chris, how does it live up to the past UFC 303? How does it live up to 302? How does it live up to 301, 300, et cetera, et cetera? Where are we on the map when it comes to UFC and the pay-per-view structures?
Well, listen, this is going to be a huge one. Obviously, they're doing this in England. They've got their guy at the top of the card, Leon Edwards, defending his belt against Bilal Muhammad, a fight that seems for the longest time nobody wanted.
Headshot.
Right? Nobody wanted this fight except for Bilal Muhammad. And I think the reason that they didn't want it is because, it's, on paper, it's not the most crowd pleasing of fights. Now, it's funny because if you think about it, the story is kind of the same, but different to the co-main event. Now, let's talk about that for a second, because if you think about this, Brady, the main event, Leon Edwards, Bilal Muhammad, they've already fought. Don't you remember?
Yeah, it wasn't great.
How did it end?
Eye poke.
Exactly. So we never got to see anything. And
I was right? I didn't fuck that up. It was an eye poke.
Yeah. I think it was more of an eye poke to try to get Bilal Muhammad forget that he was ever in that fight, because we've all tried to forget that he was ever in that fight. It was not a good fight.
Bilal's a very talented individual. Do I think he's championship material? Hell no, I do not. I think Bilal just came through. He came through and fought a bunch of people at the right place, right time. That's Bilal.
Okay.
That's the nutshell. Right place, right time.
So is it that, or do you think that Bilal Muhammad is not marketable enough as a champion?
He's not marketable. That nose is something that magazines, internet, Instagrams, TikToks can't even fit that fucking nose in. His nose is as big as my body, dude. I'm not a very big guy, but that's a big fucking nose, dude.
Could you imagine? Like, this main event doesn't really speak to me all that much. But what does is this co-main event. This co-main event, Tom Aspinall, Curtis Blades. Again, a rematch, because this fight already happened once. And what happened in this one?
Ooh, don't remind me. Little Tommy blew his knee out.
Completely blew his knee out.
Yeah, it was bad.
Right? Now, here's the difference. And the same, actually. The difference is it's it was not an eye poke. It was not a finger up or anything like that. That was a blown out knee with heavyweights. Cool. So we're going to see this whole thing rewind itself. The sameness of it is the fact that both of these fighters that were out of this, actually all four of these guys, are much different fighters now, in my opinion. Tom Aspinall is not the Tom Aspinall before that injury anymore. Curtis Blades isn't the Curtis Blades that he was when he fought Tom Aspinall last time.
No,
you know what I mean?
That's a couple miles of CTE on Curtis Blades since then.
Leon Edwards is certainly not that same Leon Edwards, because that was before he got the title. So, and Bilal Muhammad may be the same fighter. I don't know. But at the end of the day, well, because Bilal Muhammad never had to change.
No, what he does works for him.
100%. I don't mean that as a knock. I mean that he has been this steady chugging along train of destruction, where he goes in there, does what he has to do. I'm going to wrestle this guy down. I'm going to dominate. I'm going to make it look like I'm dominating the entire time, and I'm going to get this win. It's not going to be the most exciting of fight. Listen, chances are you're not going to see me knock anybody out, but what you're going to see is you're going to see my hand raised, and I'm going to get close enough to eventually they're going to have to give me that title shot.
That's what happened.
That's what Bilal Muhammad has done. Completely. So, who do you think has a better chance of defending their belt in these two fights, Brady? Do you think it's Leon?
I think both of them defend their titles easily.
Okay. I too think that Tom Aspinall defends his title easily. And I think that if he defends that title, he got the title and defended the title before John Jones even got his next fight out. Come on, Tom Aspinall is the champ. In my opinion, Tom Aspinall is the champ. That's the belt. It's not an interim belt anymore. That is the belt that is being defended. And if it's being defended, it's the belt.
I've been
Period.
saying that since he won it. I'm like, that's the real title. At this point, John Jones is spending more time supposedly in gay clubs with the LGBTQT community than he is actually spending time in a gym trying to get himself better or even acting like he's the UFC champion. I do not think John Jones is a real champion. I think he has a heavyweight BMF title. I've said it once, I'll say it again. I think he defends that heavyweight BMF title against Stipe. I think that's an easy fight for him. Shouts out to Stipe for even just still sitting around waiting for that fight. It's a big money fight. They'll sell it like it is, whether it is or it isn't. He'll make a bunch of money. But Tom Aspinall is our UFC heavyweight champion, and he has been since the day he beat that big Russian dude or whatever he is.
Do you think that Curtis Blades can use his wrestling? Do you think he's going to be able to wrestle against a
No,
guy like Tom Aspinall?
no, I think Tom Aspinall, that's his background, is wrestling. I think Tom Aspinall, his background is actually grappling. It just happens to be that he's really good at boxing and he's a big fucking boy. He's got that Frank Mir style body. It's deceivingly big. People don't realize how big Tom Aspinall actually is. When you see him standing there against, like, beside even Herb Dean, he looks massive, deceivingly big.
So then let me ask you this. Do you think Bilal Muhammad can use his wrestling effectively against a Leon Edwards?
I think he could, but I don't think it's his night. I think the pressure is going to get to Bilal. It's happened before. And I think Leon Edwards is on his way out of the game. I think he would like to retire undefeated as champion. Not undefeated, period, but undefeated defending his title. I think he's got maybe 2 or 3 more fights in him and call it a wrap. People forget how long Leon's been around the game.
And now let me ask you this. Let me ask you this because there's a third. There's actually a lot more Brits fighting on this, but there's a third fight that is a very high profile fight that's being pumped out there. And this is going to be absolutely a lot more insane than I think people are giving it credit. And I'm talking about Paddy the Baddy, the guy, one of the most polar characters since a Conor McGregor. Now, he doesn't come with the same kind of accolades or anything like that, but he has this kind of polarizing character to him. And he's fighting against a dude who also very polarizing character, just completely 180 from what Paddy is. I'm talking about King Green. That's right. He's no longer Bobby Green. He's King Green. And if you're going to change your name, bro, come on, let's be realistic. If you're going to change your name to King before going over to England and fighting a dude that is just revered over there, I mean, you better have your game plan in check.
Here's the thing about Paddy. I think Paddy would be a huge superstar right now if he didn't go the route of shitting on Ariel Helwani. We all love to shit on Ariel Helwani. I've shit on him in person at a couple of pressers events back in the day. Ariel's very good at his job. He's one of the, I think he was the pinnacle when it comes to actual journalism in professional wrestling, which is really hard to find a real journalist in there. And he's also at the very top of the MMA world. I think his beef with Dana translated over to his beef with Paddy. His beef with Paddy didn't do Paddy any favors because Paddy came out doing a whole bunch of a smear campaign on the man. Didn't work out too well for him. Sometimes when you go out there and you work real hard on spiting someone, you should just kept your fucking mouth shut because I think he lost a lot of t-shirt sales. So I think there's a whole group of people in the UK that are going to be behind Paddy the Baddy. But I think everybody else watching on pay-per-view is waiting for Bobby Green to send him into the nosebleed section.
Well, I mean, listen, everybody loves to see a train derailed. Am I right?
Yep.
Especially in the world of MMA. Now, here's the thing. Paddy does have a hell of a chin on him. Bobby Green is touchable. He can also be taken down.
Yeah, he could be held for 3 rounds. It very well could happen.
Paddy
Smothering.
Paddy does have submission skills.
Mm-hmm.
He is a threat on the ground. I don't think that the smartest move for Paddy is to try to stand and bang with King Green.
Probably not.
That is not the smartest move. So he's going to want to get in fast, get him taken down, make this boring, right? So it's going to be up to King Green to try to make this exciting. Get out of that black zone. Get out of that spot up against the fence. Stay with your back to the middle of that octagon. You always fight with your hands down at your hips and just touch them up. Slide to the left and touch them up. Slide to the right, touch them up. Like, that's going to be his key to success. Whereas Paddy's going to need to get him down onto the ground and try to smother him out. There's no doubt about it.
Well, speaking of the UFC, this past weekend we had a fight night going on amongst everything else. We had a whole bunch of stuff going on, but we did have a fight night, and we seen a Hurricane open up the show, and wow, for somebody, I guarantee that's his last prelim fight. Holy shit. Hurricane is now 10-0. If you haven't watched it, just go to UFC Fight Night Hurricane and watch that fight. Craziest amount of combos I've seen since the Pride days. It was like watching a mini Don Fry. It was like a mix of Don Fry and Diego from back in the day, when they just came out just swinging. But like it wasn't just swinging recklessly like a Justin Gaethje. It was like swinging like I'm putting combos together on third levels here. Like, this is some this motherfucker lit this guy up. One of the greatest, actually, probably my favorite knockout of the entire night, including every event that I watched. And I watched a lot of shit this weekend, but that was fantastic. Go check out the Hurricane Fight Night. That was amazing. But Chris, before we head to roll this ride out, what are your last thoughts on UFC 304 coming up?
Well, listen, here's the thing that I'm looking forward to the most, I think, about 304. And it's probably not even any of those 3 fights. There's a fight that I'm really looking forward to, and that's literally the Manel Kape Muhammad Mokaev fight. There's a fight that I think is going to be a very unsung thing. So now listen, you asked me what I think about 304 coming up. We've talked about four of these fights on the main card that could all be main events. If you think that Manel Kape and Mokaev couldn't be a main event on a fight night, you're kidding yourself, because it absolutely could.
Money fight.
Paddy and Green main event, absolutely it could. Aspinall and Blades, absolutely it could. I mean, you've even got Giga Chikadze and Arnold Allen, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah. I think we have Arnold Allen
starting this whole thing off.
Yeah.
Every one of these fights at 304 could be a main event. We're 4 pay-per-views away from what we thought was the greatest thing at 300. Everybody was like 300. Oh, how are we going to follow up? And there's going to be some slugginess afterwards. Listen, even the fight nights have been great, but these pay-per-views, they've delivered every single time. And I have a feeling that this one is going to deliver as well.
We got a big Sphere coming up too in September. So we've got nothing but good stuff with the UFC. Yeah, all right, let's roll this ride out, and we'll see you guys soon.
Be sure to click that subscribe button, click that like button, and tell all of your friends. Share it with everybody. We appreciate you just as much as you appreciate us. So let's make this thing even bigger.